How's it going, everyone? Back with another video where I will be going over the challenge that I just played in yesterday. Unfortunately, I didn't play this on stream just because I was working in between rounds. So I was just playing this off stream, and I figured there was a lot of cool moments and cool data that I got in the challenge, whether it's good or bad, that I wanted to share. So we're just going over the replay of this challenge. So this is the list that I played in, and for those who have been watching my stream, I've been kind of tuning the Invasion of Ikoria, Black Ring Rock list with Overlord of the Bailmerk and 4 Vampire Hexmage. And in the stream, I was pretty much kind of going where we left off with like 4 Emperor of Bones. The Troll khazad-dum has been pretty cool as a way to synergize with the Emperor, as a way to kind of have a way to kind of have a quick clock with the Emperor that we can kind of self fuel, so we're not like too reliant on our opponent's graveyard. And going to the challenge, I feel like Modern has a pretty stable metagame with Black White, Temur Breach, and Eldrazi as kind of the top deck. So I was hoping to target that with 4 Fulminators for Eldrazi, 3 Torpor Orbs for Black White, and then Endurance and Haywire Might, as well as Culling Ritual for Breed. So it's kind of a really tight sideboard. It's pretty clean. I don't think I've ever had a list with only 6 sideboard cards or unique sideboard cards. So hopefully this content will be entertaining, even though this isn't a live Twitch stream. So if there's any feedback that you want to provide, if I were to make another like replay type video, please let me know. Other than that, let's go on into the matches. So round 1, where we lost the Dyro, so we're on the draw. If you saw, that was kind of quick, but we had a no lander into a mole into 6. And we have a hand where we have basic forest, Thoughtseize, Troll. I felt like we couldn't go to 5, so I kept this hand knowing that like we can't really Thoughtseize on our turn 1, fortunately. And then we draw our second basic forest, which is definitely more awkward. So I opt to just be able to play a forest and then have the ability to tutor up a swamp with Troll here. So then I get the Underground Mortuary because I have a feeling this is like blue-white control. So there's nothing that I really want to protect here. So I figured I could just Thoughtseize the following turn and then get an Emperor into play. There's this land on top. And after I was like, I don't need another land. And in retrospect, I binned a Wooded Foothills into the graveyard. But I think I probably should have topped it just so I can go Thoughtseize Emperor Bones, thinking that this is some sort of like control deck. Here they go Elegant Parlor, and then they go Tune the Narrative. So this is where like I kind of have to wait for another black source because I want to go like Thoughtseize into Emperor Bones to kind of protect it. And again, I can't cast this Hex Mage. Luckily, I draw a Troll and then get another black source, and I'm not in a rush to cast any of my spells this turn, so I'm just kind of getting another Surveillant just to be able to prolong my game plan. Keep an Overlord on top. They have a Null Drifter and then Consign to Memory, which is pretty cool. They have 6 cards in hand. Here, all Thoughtseize. And I took a Solitude, but their hand is Dress Down, Wrath of the Skies, Galvanic Discharge, Flage, and another Wrath of the Skies. So this is where I wanted to protect my Overlord, and that's why I took the Solitude. I could see taking like a Discharge, and then they go Flage and like if I don't take the Solitude, they could just go Flage plus Discharge my Overlord, which is what I considered. But I figured that at least that way they don't really have like a 3/2 body in play. So that's where I cast my own Overlord on myself on my turn. And I reveal a Hex Mage, so I could take a Hex Mage or a Troll. I end up getting a Troll just to be able to hit my land drops. That's where like Troll of khazad-dum has been pretty nice, just because it's been able to ensure my land drops, especially because a Null Drifter with Annihilator 1 is kind of breathing down my neck here. However, I think this Null Drifter does get a little annoying, especially with the Flage in play. And now we can't really Emperor with the Flays just because they have the discharge, but they play it. They just like basically cycle a dress down and make sure we can't exile the Flays. But I think it's worth it for me to decay the dress down. That way we can trigger the Emperor. But they have the Wrath of Skies, one of the two, and essentially we kind of get squeezed, especially with like the multiple fatal pushes that we draw. I basically try to bait a counter spell. Um, but then they have the Hex Mage, or they have a second dress down, so I can't attack with the Overlord just because my idea was I can take the counters off the Overlord and start attacking, but that plan is kind of nullified. So from there, I'll sacrifice the Overlord that has the most counter because I feel like I have. I feel like I need all four of my lands. I draw my third push, which is unfortunate. So then I just attack, get in there. I think I just get back a Grist, which is kind of hidden. My graveyard is so big. So then I attempt to cast a Grist, but they do have the counter spell, unfortunately. And this is where we just die to a Null Drifter attack, unfortunately. Round 1. Game 2, we're on the play because we lost game 1. We keep a hand where we have Verdant Catacombs plus Troll. I guess we also have a third land in the sense like we have our third mana source because of the Bogart Trawler. So here I just play the Verdant Catacombs and then crack the fetch. Plan to get a Mortray to plan to get an Overlord on 2. Mill it over. Find our Hex Mage, which we get pretty lucky, of course. And then they tune the narrative to get 2 energy. This is where I'm kind of weary of a counterspell. But I think I just jam into it, knowing that I have the backup Overlord. Because if they counter the Hex Mage, we can just play another Overlord the following turn, get the Hex Mage out, and then just do that same game plan next turn. So it really pressures our opponent in order to have multiple counter spells. They do have the dress down, so this is basically cycling it. But that being said, like they're already at 9 already based on them fetch shocking, and then taking an Overlord hit. So even though we don't get any value back out of it, cracking in 4 or 5 is already a lot. And then they 2-for-1 themselves to get the Solitude down. Here we just play an Overlord, which they cast a dress down, but it's an enchantment. It's not a creature because of them pending. So this still triggers, which is nice. So then I get the Hex Mage in play. And then it's kind of the same song and dance here where I just threaten a Overlord attack. However, I think in this spot, I rumble, beta counters, try to bait out a counter. So I try to get more information on what they're trying to do here. They force, so that kind of gives a huge tell that they have like some sort of interaction, whether it's a counter spell or something. And that's where I opt to not crack in this Hex Mage and attack with this Overlord, because I want to pressure my opponent where the Overlord isn't going to be attacking for lethal anyway, and I think the Hex Mage is still applying enough pressure to where they still have to at least interact with the Hex Mage, and then if they do, then I can crack it and turn on my Overlord. So I kind of just be a little bit more patient, have this Underground Mortuary, and keep the Overlord on top. The end step dress down, so I think that's a sign of weakness there because they're just basically cycling it. They Null Drifter, draw 2, so they have their kind of engine going here. And I just end step Dismember, basically trying to see if it eats a counter spell there. Again, I'm just baiting counter spell. They still have red mana, so because of the fact that they didn't counter my Overlord, with the Overlord on trigger on the stack, I sacrifice the Hex Mage, turn on my Overlord, so that way I can bring back the Hex Mage that I use to turn on the first Overlord. I thought this was a really, really cool play that I haven't done yet on stream, just because of the fact that like I got to like play a line where like I got to be kind of careful, right? I got to cast this Hex Mage, sorry, cast this Overlord, see if it resolves, and if it doesn't resolve, like I said, they counter it. If they tap out, then I might just go for the Overlord. But since they didn't do anything, it's like essentially free almost for me to just crack the Hex Mage, um, turn on the Overlord that's already in play, and then with this Overlord trigger on the stack, bring the Hex Mage back. And then that way, it's like it really pressures them to interact with this Overlord, which they do. But then it's like back to square one again, where it's like I'm okay with just pressuring this Overlord activation. I could have played Hex Mage, but I think it's better just for me to uh, cast this Nethergoyf. So that way I have two bodies that I can attack with um, the following turn. Here they Null Drifter, and they don't consign, or they will consign here. So they do have a blocker in play. Um, this Abrupt Decay is a little awkward. They have the counterspell form a Hex Mage, so I just attack with this Nethergoyf, put them to 1. And then I essentially go for Dino Time, get another Nethergoyf, um, and then just again have 2 lethal attackers. And then if they wrap the skies here, I can go Emperor, and then just get a creature from the graveyard and then just attack. So like I had multiple avenues where we were really pressuring our opponent, so this was a really cool game where we were really like cinching in on our opponent with like multiple safe plays on our end. We weren't overcommitting, but still applying enough pressure where it really required our opponent to do something. So game 3 of match 1, I think I forgot to go over the sideboard. I boarded all the pushes, and then I boarded in the endurance, as well as like a single Hangwire Might, just to be able to, because I saw Leyline Binding. So that's where I boarded those, and just that's flash threats, and a Hangwire Might as a way to answer Leyline Binding, and maybe in a Rust in Peace. So we're on the draw. This is a sketchy hand, but I decided to keep it just because of the fact that, again, this is a grindy matchup. I don't really want to mulligan too heavily. We do have a pair of 1-mana plays, so if I draw another Mana Source, I can, lean on a 1-mana spell, and then get a Survey Land, try to hit more lands. But since I did not, I'm gonna opt to get a Survey Land, try to get a land on top, which I find, which is nice. Hopefully, essentially, this rest of the game, I just want to hit land drops. Them playing another Surveil Land is good for us just because they don't have Counterspell up. But also the fact that they also bend a Counterspell, which raises a lot of flags in the sense that maybe they're just digging for a red source. Maybe they're digging for more mana. That's the kind of the things that I see when they're bending a powerful card like Counterspell. So here I'm going to cast an Overlord. Find the Hex Mage, which is what we really like to see. Again, this is where we want 4 Hex Mages just because finding it from one Overlord feels really good. Here they find a Mana Source, so I'm going to just Swamp Cycle, get a Swamp, and basically just going to cast another Nethergoyf. I don't want to commit too much, and then I was debating if I should cast Thoughtseize or not. And since the Nethergoyf resolved, I figured that I didn't smell a counterspell, and that's why I just cast the Thoughtseize. And when I cast the Thoughtseize, I took a Dress Down. Their hand was a pair of lands, Dress Down, Solitude, Consign, and Stern Scolding. And reflecting back, I think I took the wrong card. I took the Solitude. Dress Down and Consign in Memory are basically the same thing in their deck. And that's where I was like, I wanted him to not have ability to cycle, and that's what Dress Down really did. But in retrospect, after I took it, I was like, I probably should have taken the Solitude, because that's like the one unique removal spell in their hand. They didn't have a white card either, so I figured like if they never draw a white card, we're essentially like in a way in a better spot. I'm basically baiting the Stern Scolding out with this Hex Mage, just to be able to get it back with this Overlord, and then I just attack for 6. So Nethergoyf, casting another Nethergoyf on the previous turn applies a pressure and still applies a lot of, and we still have like these Overlords just coming down, because this is a matchup where even if we don't have the Hex Mage, like these Overlords are just constantly just coming down and just imminent and coming and pressuring our opponent. Here I essentially go for lethal here, making them forcing my opponent to solitude because they null drifted. So this is definitely a sign um, of weakness here. Here I still attack. They solitude and essentially block just to try to stabilize. They have the flage. Um, took the stress down already. So essentially, we don't know what the cards are in their hand. Because of the flages in the graveyard, I'm going to cast this Endurance as a way to kind of bait and also just apply more pressure. And now we find the Hex Maze that we just naturally draw, which is the best draw because now we just attack for 14 and then get Grise back, and it's kind of a winning recipe there. So 1-0 to start the challenge. Round 2, game 1. We're on the draw. And I see this hand where we have a troll, a Bogart Trawler, a Nethergoyf, and I actually opt to mulligan this hand, I believe, which is, I think in retrospect, I think that was probably incorrect. I think it's because I think I read that my opponent was on black-white, and I think that hand just like didn't have the tools to beat black-white. So I wanted like removal to answer a Felia. That is right. And that's where I see a Fatal Push, slam a Nethergoyf on 1, and that's like what I really want to see. Because now I can go Nethergoyf into Malevolent Rumble and start applying a lot of pressure. Unfortunately, they draw Dothied Voidwalker, which is apparently the bane of my existence in this deck. We have the push, so we just attack in with this Nethergoyf. Again, another bane of my existence is this Relic of Progenitus with this Overlord, and they bring back the Dothied Voidwalker, which is really tough to see. Here I rumble, find an Overlord, which is awesome. Cast Overlord, and that's one of the great things I really like about Malevolent Rumble is we can make plays like that where we have 3 mana, we can rumble and then also cast an Overlord and just commit a lot to the board and just be really, really efficient with our plays. Especially because essentially we milled 6 cards with rumble plus Overlord. However, with this Voidwalker plus Relic of Progenitus going, like we essentially like once they crack this relic, which they do, like our Nethergoyf is just pretty small. So then this is where I'm debating if I should rumble, and that's what's scary facing this Voidwalkers is like if I rumble something, and they let's say I get an Overlord, then they just gladly cast the Overlord, right? Here they have another Overlord. They get back Ketramos, and that's where the writing's on the wall. Luckily, we draw a Hex Mage again, and this is where we. It is kind of awkward because if you read Overlord of the Bailmerk, it mills 4 cards, and then you choose a creature from your graveyard to bring back. That's very different than Malevolent Rumble, because essentially, if there's a Dothied Voidwalker in play, all the creatures or all the cards that I mill with Overlord go in exile, and I don't get anything back because everything got exiled. Whereas in something like Malevolent Rumble, the Malevolent Rumble reads you reveal the top 4 cards, and you put a permanent in your hand, and then you mill the rest. That's very different because it doesn't go straight into your graveyard, and when you cast Malevolent Rumble, you get to actually like bring a card back. So I opt to just like kind of rumble out of desperation, trying to see if I can get a Dino Time, try to get something that's a little bit more advantageous that can put more pressure onto my opponent, such because I know that there's a Ketchamos looming. Here I'm basically surveilling just to try to get my opponent's life total down. I don't know if it's really worth the card. Here I was really tanking on this invasion decision because I could have gotten Grist and then sacrifice my spawn token, kill the Voidwalker, and then try to essentially come back from there. But that being said, I kind of went for the quote unquote kill. Um, the kill being I got Emperor Bones. Um, and there's a Dothy Voidwalker in play, and I know that I'm not going to win the long game. So my line was I was going to get Emperor Bones, get the Dothy Voidwalker, and attack, and hope they don't have Fatal Push or Solitude plus White card. But I just saw they had the Fatal Push, and that was kind of the beginning of the end here because they essentially attack. I basically lose a Nethergoyf. They gain for a life. They have the Solitude. Um, So I literally lose pretty much my whole board. That really matters. They draw a card, gain the life back. They have the Overlord, and then draw an Abrupt Decay, which is kind of dead in this spot. Play the Hex Mage, and then I essentially have Invasion. Like I have Zalortha basically wrapped up. That maybe I could try to get out of this, but they have the Felia. They can bring back their Overlord, and they draw a bunch of cards, and we just die from there. So game two. I boarded in the 3 Torpor Orbs, and then I basically just boarded out the 3 Nethergoyf. I leave 1 Nethergoyf, but just because of the fact that they are a relic of Progenitus deck, I think Nethergoyf is just poorly positioned in this matchup. So that's where I just board those out. This game's going to go long. I'm not going to try to aggro them out with a Nethergoyf. So that's where I make that cyber decision. Keeping Thoughtseizes for Ephemerates and such. Sounds pretty solid. I have turn 1 Thoughtseize into turn 2 Emperor of Bones. If I draw a third land, I can get Grist. See a hand of Bogart Trawler, Marsh Flat, Solitude, Overlord, Ephemerate, Felia. And this is where I was debating if I should take the Bogart Trawler, and then if they're stuck on land, that's like one avenue of victory. I opted to just take the Solitude just because it's the quote-unquote removal spell. There's no point in taking... I guess if I take the Overlord, they would have a backup one. I could take the Ephemerate, just so they don't have any way to protect their spells. But they are short on land, so I figured if they're going to play the Felia, I can Fatal Push it. So that's why I opted to just take the Solitude. Feels kind of bad. Maybe I should have taken the Ephemerate because it's the unique card. But I didn't want them to bring back the Overlord, so I had the Emperor play lined up, and that's where I can take the Solitude and they don't bring it back with the Overlord. They find Dothy Voidwalker, which is very, very, very sad for me because we know how good that card is against our deck. So then I play a Grist, and this ends up being a Grist game where we just make a bunch of tokens and try to just outvalue our opponent. They have Felia plus Ephemerate lined up, which is kind of scary. Luckily, we drew a backup Fatal Push, which is nice. They Solitude Ephemerate because they don't want me to attack with this Overlord here. So essentially, they have Bogart Trawler, Overlord, Felia, and 2 unknowns. Just play my Surveil land, and with that, they actually get a Surveil land and play the Felia, so because they use the Ephemerate, so we can just use a single push, which definitely benefits us. Use the Bogart Trawler, play a land, get the Overlord. It's basically have Felia up again. Here I attack. Again, get more value out of the Grist. I rumble, get Hex. I was thinking about Hex Mage, but I'll just get a land. I just don't hit my land drops. Up the push here. Because, like, if I get... I could always just get a Hex Mage with this Invasion of Ikoria. Correct my fetch so it doesn't get the counter off the Voidwalker, the Void counter. Voidwalker can't block. So I keep cracking in with Grist. I opt to sacrifice a token, kill the Dothy Voidwalker. And this is where I was talking in Discord where someone asked me if I miss Urza Saga. And I do not miss Urza Saga in this spell because losing our land drop is very, very detrimental. And thanks to Malevolent Rumble, this is a spot where I get to Invasion for 5, which I have not done yet so far. And I think Invasioning for 5 is very clutch in this matchup because now we just get a 5-mana play, get a Hex Mage back, and then a Hex Mage can now turn on this invasion of Ikoria. They have a Ketchamos, attack with Felia, turn on the Overlord, kill Felia, which is great for us. And basically now they're in a spot where they need Solitude or Bust with his Overlord. They find a Solitude, which is very annoying. And that's where I want to see if I want to go for it. And my line there was like, they have a Solitude. Is their last card a white card? And that's where I decide to Thoughtseize. Try to crack a Pete land to draw Thoughtseize, which I did, which is really, really lucky in the sense that like I got more information. So that way I know our coast is clear. The Sketchamos can't attack or block, so they don't get any life. Luckily, they're at 7, so they are at the perfect life total, where we have Xaxes with Zalortha. So Dino Time coming in clutch as always. So game 3, of course, on the draw. I keep a hand of Vampire Hexmage plus Torpor plus Abrupt Decay, so this seems like a decent hand. Like Hexmage is a little on the weaker side, but if we draw like an Invasion or an Overlord, like this hand is rocking, especially with 2 Surveillance. We can try to like find that action. But I think this hand really leans on Torpor, which sucks because it got Thoughtseized. So we go Mortuary, Mill of Forest. They have a Relic, which is unfortunate. We draw a Thoughtseize. We take a Ketchamos. Their hand is Ephemerate, Vindicate, and Fatal Push. So I take Ketchamos as the best card in their hand. I think that's kind of an easy Thoughtseize take there. They Surveil on top, which is scary, but we find out it's just a land. We will Surveil ourselves. Find an Abrupt Decay. We already have one in hand, so I ended up milling it. So this is like a really kind of awkward back and forth game. I don't want to play an Invasion and not get much value out of it. So I'm like kind of saving it up. Maybe I get an Emperor, maybe I get a Grist. Luckily I draw an Overlord, which was so good, especially with this Hex Mage in hand already. So they don't know about the Hex Mage they already have. And this is where they have the Felia, which is a good card, but they don't have their own Overlord to pair with. They Vindicate my Overlord, attack in, and basically it kind of turns into this is like a funny game because like now it just turns into like a bear fight where like we're racing 2 power creatures with each other, which is kind of funny. I opt to just play the second Hex Mage instead of going for Grist here, because I think at this point we're at a spot where like they have Felia where they just exile all of my tokens. So I'd rather just like play this game where I try to bait out a Fatal Push. They're exiling the Relic, and that's where I decide to Abrupt Decay it just to be able to get that out of the way, especially since they have Ephemerate in hand. So based on the status quo, I feel like they're gonna win the race. So I'm just gonna decay the Relic, draw an Overlord, which is probably the best draw that we could have asked for. Oh, sorry, draw an Overlord, which is the best draw I could have asked for. Find a Grist anyway. So that's where I decide to just use my Abrupt Decay as much as I can, because like since the family they just hold everything. They Bogart Trawler, exile my Emperor Bones, which I wanted, which was unfortunate. And then now they're back on defense. I attack. Find nothing in the graveyard, unfortunately. They take. And then this is where I happily Invasion again for Overlord. So that's twice now that I got to Invasion for an Overlord, which was amazing. Bring back an Emperor Bone, so that way now I can attack with this Bogart Trawler and really get going on trying to go wide. And that's where, again, like I mentioned a second ago, Do I miss Urza Saga? The answer is no. Like now that we're kind of 2 matches in, you can kind of see that I'm using my mana like every turn. So like I don't have an abundant of mana where I can just like make a construct. And that's what I kind of noticed with like the Overlord builds. Like we're playing an Overlord on 2, and then we play another spell on 3, and then we're you know casting a spell, casting a rumble, and like that's where um it really I really don't miss Saga because I never really have an opportunity to make constructs, like as you've noticed. And now it's like 2 games in a row where we invasion for an Overlord, and that just wins the game. Being able to 2 to 4 and find our Overlords more consistently is definitely kind of the backbone of the deck. But now we're 2-0. So round 3, game 1, we're on the play. I see a hand of Overlord, double Overlord, Dismember, Emperor, and a Malevolent Rumble. Pretty good hand, as long as we can find a Hex Mage. So I'm gonna opt to try to find a black source with this Vertic Catacombs. Fortunately, we see an Ugin's Labyrinth and a Talisman. So we're against Eldrazi, which is a pretty mad matchup. Another Goyf is a nice find just because off the Surveil, because we know that our another Goyf, our Overlord will at least hit. Get an Emperor back. They play Stomping Ground. I rumble, try to find a Hex Mage, and that's where I opt to Emperor, get the land just so I can get the black source, just because I prioritize my black mana, just so I can cast future Hex Mages, and I can just like exile the Hex Mage, turn it on, cast the Hex Mage, crack the Hex Mage, attack with Overlord. That was kind of like my game plan over time. Find a troll, dismember the microspawn, attack, and just try to get pressure in. And then from there, they just concede. So that's where like I was really aggressive. Like you see a Vampire Hex Mage, and you were like, oh, like I want to take it, but with no black mana, I think it's really critical that I pivoted to the Emperor plan. Emperor also inherently attacks. I think I got rewarded for the aggressive line. So round 3, game 2, I board out the Fatal Pushes and I trimmed the Dismember. I boarded in 4 Fulminator Mages, as well as a Haywire Might, as well as took out the pair of Abrupt Decays as well. I also boarded in Plague Engineer just as a way to answer the Kozilek return Eldrazi spawn tokens. Here I mulligan to 6 and find a hand that has 2 lands, Troll plus Emperor. Basically, I'm hoping that my Thoughtseize, I can take something. This is where I take the Sowing Mycospawn, just because of the fact that I don't want them to essentially Stone Rain me. I think in retrospect, maybe I should have just taken the Emrakul. My plan is to, I guess, Emperor and then Emrakul, but I was kind of scared that they might like Stone Rain me and I won't have access to it. In retrospect, I think I probably should have just taken the Sowing Mycospawn. Or sorry, I should have taken the Emrakul and just try to like win the game that way. Because an Emrakul hit is 13. And then a adapt an Emperor is 17 plus, so it's like 3 swings essentially. Something to think about. I was just really hoping that they wouldn't be able to develop their game plan. But I take the Emperor, take the Sowing Mycospawn. But then I think what really hurts is the fact that they Kozilek's command. So like they technically had the answer to the Emperor if I really wanted to. But from here they have the Null Drifter. I think that's where I don't think it possibly would have really mattered, just because they probably would have just made the tokens and exiled my Emperor anyway. There we go. Attack, and then this Null Drifter ends up just kind of taking us out, to be honest. I think I also earlier, I think I just misclicked the wrong. Yeah, that's what I did. I wanted to take the Devour with the Emperor and then attack with the Devour. And instead I accidentally clicked the micro. I accidentally activated the Emperor before the trigger went on the stack, but ended up not mattering because like essentially I would attack for 6, and they had bit 6, but then they're at Devour here, and I would have just like died anyway. So it is what it is. So game 3, we're on the play. We had a hand of like double Hex Mage plus Invasion. That was kind of awkward, so I mulliganed that hand. Second hand wasn't great either. I think in these type of matchups where you really have to mulligan aggressively, and I think this is a 5-card hand that's like has a chance to win. So we Thoughtseize on 1, Overlord on 2. Here I see Karn, the Great Creator, Forest, Kozilek's Return, or Kozilek's Command, Stone Rain, Winds of Teeth, double Utopia Sprawl. In retrospect, I think I should have taken the Kozilek's Command, just because it's a card that actually ramps them. But I take the Karn. But like I had the Emperor in play. Like I could have like pressured them here. I take the Overlord just because I want, or take the Troll just because I want to be able to hit my land drops, knowing that a Stone Rain is coming, which is pretty annoying. So right now we know that the only card in our opponent's hand is a Kozilek's Command, and that's where it is kind of awkward because now they can Kozilek's Command my Emperor Bones, versus like if they had the Karn, I could have just like attacked the Karn down. And this is where I really wanted to. I need a third land for Fulminator Mage so I can like attack. I can Stone Rain the Ugin's Labyrinth, and that's where like Fulminator Mage for 3 mana is just like a tad bit slow. Really taxes our mana. They Kozilek's Command, get the World Breaker back, cast the World Breaker, exile or Overlord, and that's where I think we are just too far behind. We have a facing down a 5/7, so I just opt to concede. So round 4, we're on the play. We see a hand of essentially Thoughtseize, Overlord, Hexmage. Like that's like the dream of this hand. Thoughtseize. We see we're against Breach. Their hand is Mox, Opal, Emery, Flame, Sink, Soulguy Lantern, Tarn, and Breach. And I took the Emery just because I wanted to be able to go Overlord into Hexmage. And I think in retrospect, I probably should have just taken the Breach, knowing that answer to the Emery. I think that's where I just kind of did not make the correct play there. Because I think I was in the mindset of like I wanted to be aggressive. I don't think that is necessarily correct. They get a survey land, get a grinding station going. So they find the grinding station, which is pretty annoying. So basically, I just have to hold up Rebuff Decay the whole rest of the game, knowing that I left them with the Underworld Breach. We know they have the Soulguy Lantern, which sucks, because now our Netherglyph is always going to be a little light. And I think this next turn is pretty crucial in where I was approaching this matchup incorrectly. I basically know that they have a Flame of Anor, so I don't turn on my Overlord. The problem is like they're just gonna draw 2 and try to find answers to, or try to find the combo piece. So I needed. This is where I reflected back, and I really need to be aggressive, and force them to use the Flame of Anor to answer my Overlord instead of trying to find a combo piece. So they rumble, find another Underworld Breach, and this is where I would like input here. I wanted to see what the play was, because I know they have another Underworld Breach in play. So with the grinding station trigger on the stack, I Abrupt Decay the Lantern to try to get them off Metalcraft. But I think looking back on that, that was just absolutely incorrect now that I think about it, just because like they can get Metalcraft back with the Soulgate Lantern. So I don't think there is a way to get out of that specific spot. I mean, obviously, I think that turn one play, if I taken the Emery and I decay the breach, I mean, they had the Rumble for the backup breach anyway, so tough to say. I think in this spot, I don't think a single abrupt taker probably would have mattered, but if anyone has any insight on that spot right there, I would love to hear it. So on the play, I have Thoughtseize, Endurance, Invasion. So I think this is where I keep a pretty good hand. I take a Tameo. Their hand is Tameo, Soulgate Lantern, Haywire Might, Island, Malevolent Rumble, Stomping Ground, Grinding Station. In retrospect, I wonder if I should have taken the Grinding Station, because if like them attacking with this Tameo is kind of whatever. I didn't have an answer to this Tameo. It's just so hard because I feel like Tameo is definitely the biggest threat. Um, I just end up rumbling, find an Overlord, which is very 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 fortunate for us. The Grinding Station. We have an Endurance plus green card, which is really good for us. I can sack the Eldrazi token, go Overlord, find another Goyf, play Hex Mage, and then basically hold up instant speed interaction here. They find the Mox Opal, which is unfortunate. They rumble, find a breach. And this is where I feel like, I don't know if I timed this incorrectly or not. But they cast the breach here. And I Endurance here just so they don't get value of bringing the Mox Opal back. So I'm hoping that they don't find a Mox Opal. So basically they Haywire Might and just essentially try to find a Mox Opal here. They find a Mox Amber, which is interesting. So then essentially they just basically combo off from here. Yeah, looking back on this, they find the Mox Opal now. So then this is where they continue the loop. They can get Mox Amber plus Mox Opal plus Mox Amber, and then they just make mana. And then they basically have the win. They have the Thassa's Oracle plus Jace plus the mana. So that's unfortunately, we lose the game. And this is kind of where it's really eye opening that a single piece of interaction isn't good enough against this deck, especially if it's like a single piece of yard hate. And that's where I'll go into at the end of the video of like where I would change up the deck list. But as long as Breach is where it's at with its current iteration, I don't think these kind of spot mass graveyard hate spells is good enough to combat this. So round 5, game 1, we're against McWinsauce, which I follow on Twitter, and he is known to be black-white. So I see this hand of Thoughtseize plus Abrupt Decay, so I know I have an answer to Ophelia, which is nice. I have a Thoughtseize. I see Solitude, Flicker Wisp, Mars Flats, Fatal Push, Ephemerate. So I opt to just take their best removal spell, which is Solitude. And then the hand really kind of doesn't really do much. They find a Thoughtseize, take my Rumble, which is kind of awkward. But then now, as you can see, like we're kind of in a holding pattern where like they aren't really doing anything either. Here, I think I just be patient, and I'm just gonna, because I have the double Fatal Push, I'm just gonna wait to Invasion, basically. Get a Troll. Emperor Bones is a decent draw, and this is where I Dino Time. Get a Hex Mage. This will basically 2-for-1 them, because eventually they'll have to answer my Hex Mage, right? And then I can just get the Dino Time. They'll push that. They Overlord and return Solitude to their hand, which is unfortunate. So Solitude plus Ephemerate is pretty disgusting. My game plan of Hex Mage attack is still online. I Rumble, find an Overlord, which is very, very clutch. Get another Goyf, play another Goyf down. So it ends up being pretty close. They push my Nether Goyf. So the hand is Flicker Wisp, Ephemerate, push, Solitude. They Flicker Wisp. Now they have an Overlord online. I know that they still have Solitude in hand. They bring back Emperor of Bones, which is really unfortunate. I get an Emperor to basically bait any Solitude or Ephemerate there. Basically, I do this line just so I can get these cards out of their hand. But at this point, like, they have Overlord plus Frickless, attack for 8, get another Solitude back. So I think that's where the writing's on the wall for me to concede this game. So game 2, the sideboarding is the same. I boarded out 3 Nethergoyfs for 3 Torpor Orbs. On the play, I have Splinter Twin again. Thoughtseize, Hexmage, Overlord is a really good way to start the game. I Thoughtseize, I see Bogart Trawler, Ketchamos, Double Overlord, Prismatic Ending, and 2 lands. I think I take the Ketchamos. It's like their best card, I believe. Oh, I took the Prismatic Ending. Interesting. Oh, I took the Prismatic Ending because I wanted to take the Emperor Bones. I wanted to protect my Emperor Bones. It's interesting. I look back on it though. I think maybe I was just trying to pressure my opponent. I don't know. Even then, maybe I would have taken the Ketchamos. Even looking back on it, I guess what happens when you watch a replay and you like question the lines that you take. But I'm taking the Overlord here. Oh, the reason why I didn't take Ketchamos. Okay, I now remember why. The reason why I didn't take Ketchamos here is because I know they have the Overlord. So I don't want to take the Ketchamos and then just they play the Overlord and bring the Ketchamos back for sure value. That is why I didn't take the Ketchamos. And that's why I took the Prismatic Ending. So then that's... Sorry. I played this yesterday. I don't remember exactly what I did. So they play their own Overlord. Sorry, this is going a little fast. They return Emperor of Bones. I do my Splinter Twin things. Attack with Overlord. Bring back Troll. They have Emperor Bones themselves. I decay. Attack. Bring back my Emperor. Play another Goyf. And I'm just like applying a lot of pressure. The Witch Enchanter destroys my Overlord, which is unfortunate. So then from here, they just concede. I have the Nether Goyf to attack. I also have the Emperor Bones. So this is where having the Troll plus Emperor was really cool. Because I can Emperor... They know I brought the Emperor back, so I could go Emperor, exile Troll, bring Troll back, attack. And that's where I wanted data out of if I can ever Troll back... bring back a Troll with Emperor Bones. And this is the game where I was already kind of ahead, but like denying my opponent a draw step and getting the win right then and there proved to be pretty valuable there. See a hand of Overlord plus Hexmage again, but we do need that black source, that coveted black source. But we do have this Troll. So that Troll kind of mitigates a lot of things. Our opponent mull into 5, unfortunately, and they mill Ophelia. So either they have multiple Ophelias or they are in search of lands. They Thoughtseize. I figured I can just let this go. They're probably take my Overlord. If I take my Troll and I'm like and I cast Overlord, I think that's best. So I feel like I left the Troll just to kind of bait them. Maybe they want to take it because I want to have this Overlord in play or in my hand. So if I can just like bait them somehow, Fortunately for us, we just have an Overlord. We just naturally, like, they just thought Seize Bug. Get the Troll back, which is awesome. Here they cast a Flicker Wisp, get back the Witch Enchanter, and that was pretty good on their turn because they destroy my Overlord. I untap, I Abrupt Decay the Flicker Wisp. I wanted to play around Ephemerate. They have their own Overlord, which is definitely unfortunate. So from now, we essentially, like, I figure, like, I'm not going to win the long game here. They haven't found Solitude yet. I'm going to Hexmage and just try to Dino Time them out. Like this is they're in a spot now. They're basically recovering from the Mulligan, and I need to end the game before they steamroll with the Overlord, which is what they do. So they Flicker Wisp the Overlord, and basically I'm hoping no Solitude, no Solitude, no Solitude. And then they return Flicker Wisp, which is fine for me. I opted Dino Time. And then I attack. Basically, I want to deal 8 damage. So, basically, I have lethal again. So here, I'm going to Invasion, get another Goyf. And basically, I have Hexmage already. So that way, I believe I don't have... I am 5... Goyf is a 5/6. So I'm hoping that... basically, I just want to aggro them out while holding up Fatal Push as well. I push their Emperor Bones. They basically attack. I'm hoping for no Solitude. They find a Solitude, which is unfortunate. I block the Overlord, which is awesome. So from there, I attack. Hope they don't have a white card. They do have a white card. Exile my Zalortha. They block. And then I Hexmage. So this is where they're at 5. They have Relic. They cast Relic. I go in here. Exile here. And this is where I think Dino Time has been pretty clutch. Because basically, I can untap, Thoughtseize them, and then just attack. I could also just go for Dino Time there. The other thing too is I can just crack the Surveil land, crack the Bloodsamer, get a Surveil land, bin it, get a Troll in the graveyard, cast the Thoughtseize. So my Nether Grave also just becomes a pretty big lethal threat too, even after a Relic pop. So I think this is really showed how powerful Invasion of Ikoria is, and I think this is like all the matches that we've won so far has been thanks to Invasion of Ikoria, and I think that's why I'm kind of doing this recording, just to kind of show off, these plays that, with Hexmage, with Overlord, with Troll of khazad-dum, and now Invasion, just like winning games. And like this is why I'm kind of on this shell and trying to constantly fine tune it, because I think I have something here, and it's just like properly adapting to the meta. So round 6, we're on the draw. We're against Pygonti, friend of the streamer. We have a hand of double Overlord, Rumble, plus Invasion. So we hope we find a Hexmage. Looks like they're on some sort of control build as well. Lupe Mortuary, bin the land. And basically we're just going to keep slamming these cards until one of them resolves. So we get a basic swamp. Slam an Overlord, resolves, which is crazy. Get an Emperor back. Here they opt again. They bottomed both, which is a great sign for us. Here I rumble. Kind of basically bait a counterspell here because I don't want to get my Overlord countered, my second Overlord. Play another Goyf. They Terminus. So this is a really interesting miracle. I Grist. I basically like force it because if they don't have a counterspell there, then like I'm live. Like if not, like I feel like Grist applies enough pressure where I can start making tokens. If it gets countered, the next turn I can just deploy an Overlord or get a fourth land and cast an invasion. I think that's the line there. Grist has been very impressive as a one-of so far. These insect tokens have been pretty clutch. Basically another counterspell check. Find the Hex Mage, which is really cool. But here, like as you can see, like that Overlord that we first cast is already on one impending count already. So it's like we really aren't in a rush to turn on the Hex Mage with it. But with the other invasion in play, Overlord in play, I decided to attack and kind of like force the interaction. Here they target cast a Terminus, which is kind of annoying, but we already have a backup Overlord and a Grist. We have so much ammunition right here. They already have 2 cards in hand. Now we're at a point where we just hardcast our own Overlord, get another Hex Mage, which is hilarious. We currently have 3 creature types in their graveyard, or 3 creatures in their graveyard. Opponents at 15 life. They cast a Teferi, and they plus. I'm at a spot where if they interact with my Overlord, I can just Hex Mage it down. I have 2. The attack goes through. Bring back a Bogot Trawler just because I wanted another body. Make a dude. Get a Trawler. Exile opponent's yard. And then go from there. Again, we have 7 cards in our hand, and our opponent has 3. They bounce our Overlord, which is interesting. I Swamp Cycle because I want to be able to get my Emperor and Bones ready. I actually run out of fetchables, which is hilarious. But I wanted it in the graveyard just because I'm going to discard a hand size. They have the counterspell. And I'm just... Grist is just like pulling so much weight in this spot. I see Field of Ruins, so I know that I need to fetch... don't fetch basics. They Terminus, which is mildly annoying. But again, we have 7 cards. They have 2. I see Thoughtseize. Take a March. And I think I really, really like this play because that essentially opens the door for me to take the March, Emperor Bones, and then bring back Troll or Overlord. Doesn't really matter. And get the win from there. So game 2, I think this is similar to my round 1 sideboarding. I brought out my pushes, brought the Ks, brought in the Endurances, and then I actually boarded in Fulminant Mages instead of Haywire Mites. First I expected Manlands, but maybe that was like the incorrect way. I see hand of double Rumble plus Endurance, so I'm not gonna mulligan this hand, and we just naturally draw Overlord, which is so good for us. They have Counterspell up, so I'm going to get the Surveil land, mill another Goyf, get a Shock land notable, and basically I'm just gonna bait Counterspells. I'm gonna Rumble. And basically like the card that I want to stick is this Overlord. So that's why I'm gonna use Rumble first. But since they tapped out already, and we have multiple Hex Mages, this is where I Rumble again, and then cast this Overlord just to kind of mill my graveyard, kind of get the most out of it. Get another Goyf. That way I can, if I wanted to double spell, I can go Endurance plus Nether Goyf. I cast this Hex Mage, cast double Hex Mage, kill the Teferi so they don't get much advantage out of it. So basically the Teferi didn't do anything. They Brain Surge, see Terminus, and they opt to not cast it, which is interesting. Here, since smell removal. I'm just gonna not activate this Hex Mage again. Like that Overlord with 3 impending counters, it's going to be live. One of these, it's going to turn like my opponent isn't going to win the game in 2 turns. This Overlord will be turned on. They Terminus, which is unfortunate. I put the Hex Mage back in the deck. I Emperor Bones basically as a way to bait a removal spell / counter spell. They Fuel the Ruin, and then they Purge with my Emperor of Bones trigger on the stack, unfortunately. But again, this Overlord is pending doom. Here I cast an Endurance just to be able to apply pressure. Attack for 3. Maybe this is a little bit impatient just because my Overlord is going to be a lot live next turn, and they can, in theory, go land plus Wrath the Skies. This is where I'm kind of scared because they tap out here at the end of my turn, but they march and destroy my Overlord, so my pay is kind of get paid off. Because I'm just trying to be aggressive, right? I'm trying to end the game as fast as possible. I'm trying to give my opponent less draw steps. I cast Netherglyph as a way to bait counterspell just because I can just bring it back and I can still keep cards in my hand. And a 3/4 is still a 3/4, it's still a clock. They Lorraineville, which is a great way to refuel their hand. Basically, I'm in a spot where I am not going to apply too much pressure or to commit too much to the board. Because if they like wipe my, if they have another Terminus, that would suck. Rest in Peace is definitely unfortunate. So I think that's where I opt to cast the Endurance, so that way I can try to end the game, like I mentioned before. Netherglyph is a pretty bad draw in the face of a Rest in Peace. They Gonjo my Endurance, so I opt to play Bogart Trawler just to be able to have lethal on board. Keep pressuring my opponent. Pressure. I run out of basics, which is sad. They opt. Get a land into play. I have a Peat land as well. They also opt bottom with the opt, by the way. They opt facing lethal. And then I believe they just concede here. Yeah, this is a concession, I think. Or not. Never mind. Moto's just being a little buggy. If that didn't spoil the ending of this match. But they march my Vampire Hex Mage. Bogart Trawler. Draw a Dismember, which probably should have boarded out. And then this Bogart Trawler crosses the finish line for us. So we're at 4-2. So last round, we are on the play. See hand of Overlord, Rumble, Decay. And it looks like we're against Boros with Ragavan. And this is the line that I was really pondering about. I was like, do I just Overlord and try to be aggressive, or do I decay the Ragavan? And I opt to just decay the Ragavan. I don't know what the correct play is here. I feel like Ragavan just like puts our opponent so ahead. And then they just cast in a Johnny. I Rumble, find an Hex Mage, and then get an Overlord. Bring back Emperor Bones. But I think this is where I feel a little unequipped in this match. Just because I feel like this Overlord package is nice. But against specifically Boros, it is a little awkward because like they just flood the board and we aren't really committing much. Like Malevolent Rumble plus Overlord isn't really committing to the battlefield. And I think that's a blind spot. As long as Boros energy is on the decline, like this deck is, I think, in a good spot. But like in a matchup like this, I really miss Tarmogoyf just because it's a threat that we can just slam. Like Emperor Bones is a good card and has its uses, but at the end of the day, like when it's facing off against a Ragavan or a a cat token from a Johnny, it doesn't look very good. Here, my opponent also just went Seasoned Pyromancer double Flage. So I exile a Flage, but I really can't do much, to be honest. They attack, and this is a line that I kind of regret. I wish I blocked this cat token here, triggers the Ajani, and then with the Ajani flipped, and then before the second main, I kill the Ajani with Hexmage. They march. I was like kind of tunnel vision on like getting this Overlord online again. So then right now they even a spot where um they would have no Ajani and just have Season Time Spiremancer plus the tokens. I probably would have Hex Maged here and attack, but then they would have Thaven Storm. So I guess in this spot right here, the board state would be Nethergoyf versus Season Pyromancer plus 2 Elemental tokens. But I don't think it really matters now because they have Arena of Glory plus Flage, and I think that's just too much for me to handle, especially with really no removal. So like if I had made that play where the Hexmage answers the Ajani plus Cat, it would be I would probably have to block the Flage, and then we would still have to answer these Season Pyromancer tokens. I guess it would depend on what I draw here, but I think that's where I think I made probably a bad play. So they have Season Pyromancer. I guess I escaped Nethergoyf. It's kind of tough because I think we're just in on such a back foot here, and eventually this Flage is like looming doom. But they find they surveil, find a Season Pyromancer on top, and I think that's just the end of the game there. So reflecting back on it, like I don't think that play would have mattered, because right now they have Season Pyromancer versus still my Nethergoyf, so I don't think it would have mattered either way. So sideboarding against Boros, I boarded out the 4 Thoughtseizes and a Dismember, boarded in 2 Endurances, and the 2 Culling Rituals, and then the Plague Engineer. So on the play, we have Hexmage plus Rumble. I shock in a Overgrown Tomb to make sure I can Rumble on 2. They cast a Ragavan, I push. I see Overlord, and that's kind of like the best hit I could have asked for. Now I just need a Hexmage to kind of really get the game going. And this is what I'm talking about, where I feel like I really missed Tarmogoyf in this match, because I would have loved just to slam a Tarmogoyf here. Now I'm in a spot where like I can't even commit a Hexmage. Because I kind of had to abrupt decay either the Ocelot Pride or the Guide of Souls. I don't think I could afford to leave my opponent with both. Essentially, I really need to like find a Plague Engineer, but I think both game 1 and 2 they just had a really good curve out of like Ragavan plus Ajani plus Season Pyromancer. That was game 1. Game 2 is Ragavan plus Ocelot Pride plus Guide of Souls plus Season Pyromancer. So like, I think their hand was just very, very, very aggressive. Like if they had like a reactive hand with like a bunch of Gavanek discharges, I think that would have been better for me. But the fact that they can just flood the board and we just didn't draw a Culling Ritual, no note, we milled this Culling Ritual in the graveyard. I think that's where we lose the match, unfortunately, and end the tournament 4-3. So as like takeaways from the deck, I think this is a really good tournament to get a lot of data out of. Overlord plus Hexmage plus Invasion is a really good core. I really, really, really like that package. I think in terms of just like fine tuning, I think I'm making a lot of deck building mistakes in the sense that I think Fulminating Mage is a card that is really bad against Eldrazi. It's too slow. And I think Endurance is a card that is really bad against Breach, or is just like not a surefire silver bullet against Breach. And those are the things I would change for the next tournament, and this is where I'm going to like stream next. So I have like the list that I'm going to try, where we have a couple things that I want to try. Like this isn't something that is set in stone either. But basically, what I want to see is, um, or the changes I'm gonna make. What I've noticed so far is I think the basic forest is a liability. Um, I have the second one for specifically Blood Moon, but to kind of start off with the sideboard, I'm cutting the endurance. And by cutting the endurances, we basically are not reliant on green, and we only need the second basic force for invasion of Ikoria, which I don't think is a huge deal breaker. So I'm gonna cut the basic forest, um, and add an overgrown tomb, just because I want to be able to have enough fetchables. I was debating between having an Urborg actually, but I think just being able to have enough swamps for troll is something that I really want to ensure, especially because we're like constantly milling ourselves. Um, I think having enough sufficient green sources is also important, and I don't think like both of them are turn one untapped sources as well. And Urborg just being a non-fetchable is just I don't think going to be very consistent. So I think it's just better just to have the fourth Ogron tomb, just to have more actual black sources. From there, the other change I'm going to make is I'm going to cut the abrupt decays. I was also testing a little bit off stream, and I noticed my record's not correctly positioned. A little late to the video now, but what I noticed is like abrupt decay is specifically for breach, and as we've noticed, um, the decay was kind of not good enough. Like I mentioned, like these single interaction spells against breach, like the deck is way too resilient for that, especially in the hands of a good pilot. So I think I'm just gonna cut my losses there and run shoot the sheriff, specifically because against black white and Eldrazi, I don't have anything that answers a resolve devourer or an overlord of the Balemark. There's nothing. I had basically essentially I guess I have a Beseiju to answer opposing overlord, but that's not great. So I'm gonna try shoot the sheriff just because I can answer again, like I said, the Eldrazi and the black whites. Uh, and for example, like Solitude, like I can't answer a Solitude. Like there's no answer to it. So I'm gonna try that. Keep the dismembers, and then I my first draft I had Thothy Voidwalkers in the sideboard, and I felt like that just took up a lot of sideboard space. So what I'm gonna try is I'm gonna try two Emperor Bones and two Dothy Voidwalkers. I want some way to interact with Breach in the main deck and have it be a static ability, not just like the one shot effect. So I'm gonna try two Dothy Voidwalker in the main deck, see how that feels. The main concern I have is because I guess technically I never really brought Troll back with Emperor Bones. Um, but I still think it's worth having the interaction. I'm just really enticed by the prospect of like Troll plus Emperor. Um, so we'll see how much I miss having the playset of Emperor Bones. And in the sideboard for specifically Eldrazi, like I mentioned, Fulminator Mage is really slow. So I'm gonna try three Break the Ice and two Shatter Assumptions. Basically because this is 2 mana interaction with Break the Ice. Shatter Assumptions is a way to kind of take out my opponent's hand and then just aggro them out. Also, because of this synergy with Dothy Voidwalker, I feel like I Dothy Voidwalker and then I Thought Seize, and I'm like, oh, I want to take like the Kozak's command, but I could try to like Emperor Bones, Emrakul, like, and that's like a really tough line to kind of walk. So that's where I'm gonna try the Shatter Assumptions. I saw someone play it at the RC a couple weeks ago, and it looked good there, so I'm gonna try that. And then I'm gonna cut the Torpor Orb because one Torpor Orb because if you notice, I beat Black White without the need of Torpor Orb twice, and then I'm cutting one Haywire Mite just to make room for two Collector Oof and two Soulless Jailer. I think if I really needed the Haywire Mite effect, I can just 2 to 4 with Invasion, or I can find it with Rumble or Overlord. And I mentioned like I just want multiple static abilities, so I think Collector Oof and Soulless Jailer are cards that are different, but also ways to interact with Breach while it's on the board, and that's something that I'm willing to try. I read an article, I forget which, I think it was on Cool Stuff. I was just trying to like look up answers, like what are the best way to beat Breach, um, and I think it's just static abilities. So like Collector Oof, Soulless Jailer, Dothy Voidwalker, because based on my experience, like it just feels like these one shot effects like no, spell bomb, endurance, abrupt decay just isn't enough. Like you need multiple instances, and something that's static is something that's permanent, right? And I think that's where um hopefully we can just flood it. Like if I can have like Dothy Voidwalker plus Collect Roof, hopefully that's enough to make sure that our opponent just can't combo off. So again, this is where I'm leaving. I'm going. This isn't something set in stone. This is something I still want to test. Um, if Shatter Assumptions feels bad, but Break the Ice feels okay, I can just add the fourth Break the Ice, and then I have the Cyber slot for like I mentioned, like adding in a second Haywire Might. If I feel like Boros energy is that bad, I can make room for that too. Um, like is Calling Ritual good enough? Like maybe I can run something that's 3 mana, for example, like a Path of Peril, something that I really liked in Pioneer. If I'm like really getting like swarmed, for example. I really like Culling Ritual against Boros because if you notice, like I was able to like have 4 mana. I just never draw it. I could also see an argument for like a Plague Engineer just because it's something that I can find off of both Overlord and Rumble, which is something I can't find with Culling Ritual. Maybe I want 3 Culling Ritual. This is where I'm kind of like um, bouncing ideas and kind of going over my thought process of how to optimize. So I kind of want to reiterate that this isn't a fine-tuned 75. This is just where I want to go next with testing. Do I like Dothy Voidwalker in the main? I could not. Do I miss Emperor Bones? Is Shoot the Sheriff good enough in the main deck? Do I miss Abrupt Decay? Is Abrupt Decay not having an answer to like a Planeswalker or a Relic of Progenitus? Stuff like that. That's where I kind of really want to see with further testing. But overall, playing the challenge was really, really great. Ended up with like 34th place, so I barely missed on top 32 pricing, which kind of sucks. But again, I just wanted to play the challenge because I haven't played in one in a while. Again, apologize for not doing it on stream. But I think I got again a lot of good data out of it. Mainly just like optimizing the sideboard, not being able to fulminate fast enough. Sorry, I'm kind of starting to lose my voice talking a lot. But again, a lot of good learning lessons where like endurance isn't good enough, fulminator isn't good enough, at least in the top decks. So hopefully we can fine tune a little bit more. Again, if you like this content, please like the video, subscribe to my YouTube. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs for those who are aware. We're at 980, so we only need 20 more subs. So I'd appreciate it if you haven't done so already. Like and comment. If you have any ideas on optimizing that, please let me know based on what we saw today. But again, like we beat some pretty good players in this challenge. McWinsauce on Black White and was like one of the best Black White players. He's constantly top 8ing challenges, which is which is a good testament to the deck performing, because if we're able to beat a good pilot on a good deck, that means we're doing something, at least something correct, right? So. And also beat Pygonti on control, and that's another good testament of the deck as well. So we're beating good pilots, and that's kind of the best thing about challenges. So again, really appreciate all the support and hope to catch everyone next time. Again, I'll probably be streaming this on Friday for those who are watching this right now. Hope to catch everyone next time. Take care.